Good day, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Build a Mentor and Mentee Relationship, co-hosted by the International Relations Committee, the Women in Surgery Committee, and the Board of Governors at the American College of Surgeons. My name is Jessie Von Custer. I am a committee administrator at the college. Before we get started, I want to inform everyone that the webinar will be recorded and will be available for viewing on the ACS YouTube page after the webinar. Additionally, if you have any questions during the webinar, please submit them through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, as there will be an audience Q&A portion for our panelists after the webinar. With that, I'm happy to introduce you to today's moderator, Dr. Mike Mavros. Dr. Mavros is the Vice Chair of the IMG Subcommittee through the International Relations Committee and is a surgical oncologist at Johns Hopkins, where he serves as the Director of Surgical Oncology in the National Capital Region. As an international medical graduate himself, he has benefited greatly from strong mentors throughout his journey and is passionate about paying it forward, especially to IMGs navigating the challenges of U.S. training. In addition to his clinical and research work in surgical oncology, Dr. Mavros dedicates significant time to mentorship and education and is honored to help moderate today's discussion. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Mavros.
Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, How to Build a Mentor and Mentee Relationship. This webinar is co-hosted by the International Relations Committee, the Women in Surgery Committee, and the Board of Governors of the American College of Surgeons. First, I'll introduce our panel for today, and then we will get into our discussion. Dr. Rowe currently serves as an assistant professor of surgery for the Division of Surgical Oncology at Indiana University. After receiving her medical degree from France, Dr. Rowe joined the General Surgery Residency Program at Indiana University School of Medicine. After finishing her General Surgery Residency, she joins the HPB Fellowship Program at Indiana University. Her clinical focus is in pancreatic, biliary, and liver surgery and includes pancreatic cancer, pancreatic cysts, pancreatitis, complex biliary pathology, liver cancer, and liver cysts. I now welcome Dr. Kulmeet Sandhu. Dr. Sandhu is a bariatric and minimally invasive surgeon at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles, where she leads fellowship training in advanced GI and robotic surgery and directs the Surgical Simulation Center. She's passionate about surgical education, mentorship, and creating pathways for women in surgery, serving on the ACS Women in Surgery Committee. Her clinical work and research focuses on outcomes of bariatric and foregut surgery, as well as the role of simulation in training. Next, welcome Dr. Jennifer Lawton. Dr. Lawton is the Richard B. Darnall Professor of Surgery, Chief of the Division of Cardiac Surgery, Director of Cardiac Surgery Research Laboratory, Vice Chair for Faculty Development, Department of Surgery, Johns Hopkins University, and the cardiac surgeon in charge at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Dr. Lawton's Basic Science Laboratory has been funded by the Thoracic Surgery Foundation for Research and Education, the American Heart Association, and the NIH. She's a member of the American Surgical Association and the Society of Clinical Surgery, and she's a fellow of the American College of Surgeons and of the American Heart Association. She serves on the Board of Governors for the ACS, and she has served on committees in the AATS, STS, STSA, EACTS, and she's the former president of WTS, director of the American Board of Thoracic Surgery, and the cardiac exam chair, past vice chair of the ACGME RRC for thoracic surgery, the deputy editor for the Annals of Thoracic Surgery, and on the editorial board of the Journal of Thoracic and Cardiovascular Surgery, as well as a reviewer for multiple other journals. Lastly, I welcome our final panelist for today's webinar, Dr. Liz Ferguson. Dr. Ferguson is a plastic and reconstructive surgeon. She's an assistant professor of surgery at Creighton University School of Medicine. In 2023, Dr. Ferguson was inducted into the ACS Academy of Master Surgeon Educators. Dr. Ferguson completed her residency at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, after which she completed her fellowship in plastic surgery at the Mayo Clinic. Dr. Ferguson is a member of the Women in Surgery Committee at the college. and she's the vice chair of WISC's Mentorship Subcommittee, and is dedicated to building mentorships. Welcome, everyone. Now that we have introduced everyone for today, I will begin with our moderated discussion. As a reminder, we will have a portion for audience questions. If you do have any questions for our panel, please enter them in the Q&A box. All right, so starting with the questions, why don't we start with Dr. Roque? Dr. Roque, have you had or have you been a mentor in the past? And if so, what did you value most about your mentor-mentee relationship?
So yes, I have been a mentor to medical student, residents, fellows, not peers yet, but I think it's seeing them grow over time and how they actually initially they come not really knowing what to expect, and you see a growth and eventually a success. So I've had a at the time he was a medical student. He was also from Greece and was asking for advice as an international medical graduate. And actually, we discussed research, we discussed all the path that I had been to before, and eventually became a resident. And now he's about to graduate. So I think seeing them successful is actually very emotional and a great moment.
Yeah, that's very true. Dr. Sandhu, any different thoughts?
As a mentee, I feel like having different viewpoints than my own has been really helpful. I tend to be a really rigid thinker, and I get weighed down by my short-term goals, like what do I need to do this week, what do I need to do this month. And having met like one of my mentors where we sit down and they made me think about like, what are your 3-year goals? What are your 5-year goals? It's that viewpoint of like thinking long-term that I wasn't doing myself that really helped me as well. So as being a mentee it's then that is something that I can then bring to my own mentees.
Yeah, that's also a great point. What about Dr. Ferguson? Any other pearls of wisdom for?
Yeah, I have two potential thoughts here. I mean, number one, I learned something from everyone I mentor, right? Like sometimes that perspective is invaluable, or their set of experiences changes me. I've also enjoyed Dr. Roque's experience of watching people be successful is very gratifying, but I think every single one of us is really a amalgamation of all of our experiences and the people who influence us, right? And so I take a little piece of everybody I work with me, and it changes how I think and how I approach and how I move forward. But also, I am a direct result of everyone who has influenced me, mentored me, sponsored me, even sometimes in some less than positive ways, right? And so I think with each of those experiences, I have changed and evolved to the next version. And so I feel really strongly about being that and doing as much of that as possible for those coming behind.
Very true. We are the product of our mentors, but also the product of our mentees sometimes. All right, so next question is for Dr. Roque. Again, what common mistakes are made early in the mentor-mentee relationship, and how can some of this be avoided?
For my personal experience, having only one mentor was a mistake. That's how things were when I was a resident. We were assigned somebody, and it was that person. But I think it doesn't. For me, it didn't work. I think many people have many angles and many wisdom, and I think that's very helpful. For example, I like to have a research mentor, a more clinical mentor, more life mentor or life coach, and they all bring something different. But I think limiting yourself to just one perspective is sometimes a little shortcoming.
Very true. Dr. Sandhu, any different thoughts?
I have a couple of thoughts on that. I think one is that it's really important to set up clear expectations and goals, both as a mentor and mentee. Because if a mentor expects someone who's really proactive or self-driven, and the mentee is someone who wants somebody like with more hands-on help. You're giving like different goals from the start. And I think that includes expectations of time. Like obviously all of us are very busy, but like one person may expect more meetings than the other. And I think it's really good to set boundaries and goals. I think the other thing I would bring up is listening skills from both parties. But if the mentor isn't listening, I feel that that may make it hard for the mentee to share their actual challenges and what they really need help with, because the mentor can't help somebody who's not telling you or being honest with you about what their challenges are. And the last thing I would say is true constructive feedback from the mentor to mentee, because people just want to be nice to each other all the time. And I think it's really important to be upfront and honest with those goals and expectations, to say, I'm going to give you constructive feedback as well, so you can improve as well.
Good points. Most people want to be nice most times. So to address
It's
this
possible to
question
give
about-
constructive feedback nicely.
Yes, of course. So kind of like on the same wavelength, one of the open questions in the Q&A, Dr. Ferguson, sometimes a mentor may not get along with a mentee due to different personalities, experience, temperament, or whatever. So what would you do in these situations?
I'm not gonna lie, I feel like that question was meant for me, because the one mistake I think sometimes people do make in a mentor-mentee relationship is feel like it is a fixed entity that you have to stay. And I think the important thing there is to recognize when it is not a relationship that serves you any longer. It's a very dynamic thing, both in terms of the relationship and the tenets of it, and also the timeline of it, right? So I think we kind of get in this situation. I'm a people pleaser, so I get in this situation where I feel like I owe something to a mentor or somebody who's helped me. And if it's no longer a mentor that serves me personally, professionally, whatever, I feel like I have to stay, right? Because I owe them something. And I think if you go into the relationship, as Dr. Sanders said, very clear on expectations and kind of the purpose for it and what aspect of your career or person they are there to help you or mentor you through. If that ends, great. It doesn't have to be forever. Obviously, don't burn any bridges, right? Surgery is a really small world. Medicine's a small world, but don't burn any bridges. But you can thank somebody for their help and assistance and move on and stop scheduling or seeking meetings with them. And if they follow up and say, hey, just wanted to check in and see how things are going, you can kind of subtly say, oh, thank you so much for checking in. I'm working on blah, 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 blah. I was able to connect with so-and-so who's kind of taken me under their wing, right? So you can kind of very casually assert that you've moving on to a different mentorship, break up nicely. But without saying this no longer serves me. If you want to be more direct, you can say it more directly. But if it doesn't serve you, you don't have to stay. You can find someone else who serves you. I also just want to, on that note, like, it's not just one mentor that's going to serve you for the rest of your life, right? As Dr. Roque said, I think I have like 7 or 8 mentors that I still call on a regular basis for different things and different components. And if those relationships continue to serve you, by all means, continue to nurture them and follow up and go back. If they don't, you can either kind of just let it fade off into the sunset casually. You can end it directly if you prefer to, or you can just kind of quietly quit it. I think just doing all of it in a respectful, thoughtful manner will serve you well with whatever comes next.
Great point. That was a great question that fit in that question that we asked about, I think that's one of the common mistakes, like staying with someone because you like where they are in their career, but like if there is no chemistry or no connection, it probably can't be a very productive or meaningful relationship. Right, going back to the script, Dr. Roque, what can mentees do to initiate a meaningful mentorship relationship?
I think I'm going to go back to what Dr. Sanders said. It's like to set expectation as to what they expect from the mentor time-wise, experience-wise, area of expertise-wise. It's different to have a clinical mentor, a research mentor, and what they want out of the relationship. But if you go and you don't really know what to expect, this is never going to be productive.
Very true. Dr. Saniu, any different thoughts? You've already expanded on this before, but anything else that
Yeah,
the mentees can do?
I think the mentee just needs to like take initiative, to set up the meetings. I think some of it is the onus is on the mentee to set up those meetings and then share openly to feel, if you feel like this is a good relationship, if you feel comfortable with this person, like be honest about what you're having struggles with. Also be accountable, like follow through on action items that you guys set up together, because that shows the mentor that you are actively participating in this relationship. I think also be realistic, as Dr. Ferguson, Dr. Roque had said, like you have to have different mentors for different things, but you also have to not say yes to everything that your mentor wants you to do. You have to know if you have the bandwidth to get it done. So if you are saying yes to everything, but you only do 50%, that's just causing you more hindrances in your relationship because it seems like you're not getting things done.
Very true. All right, Dr. Ferguson, how can a mentor best help their mentee with their career?
Well, I think that depends on the mentee, right? And what their needs are and where they're at in the process and what they need help with. Because your needs as a graduate who's trying to get into residency and fellowship and figure out how to navigate our system is going to be very different than somebody who is in training and trying to figure out what is next, what you want to be when you grow up, how you're going to contribute to the house of surgery in general, different early career, mid-career, late career. So I think we're all just going to keep coming back to Dr. Sandhu's brilliant statement of open communication and really being clear about what is needed. And that goes both ways, right? Like if somebody approaches me and asks me if they can schedule a meeting, I am happy to find time to chat with pretty much everyone. But what are we here to talk about? What can I help you with? Is this a career exploration? Is it a navigating the system? Are we trying to figure out navigate some second victim syndrome early in career? We can talk about all of those things. But me even saying, what are your goals? What are your expectations, right? Because I don't want to go into a mentor-mentee relationship where I'm not meeting their expectations. Nobody wants to be a disappointment. So same for the mentor. What are your goals? What are your needs? What are you hoping for? And then an honest ask of myself of, do I have the capacity for this right now? Here's where I probably fall down more than anything is I don't ever want to say no to someone, but we're busy. There's a lot going on and a lot of demands of our time. So also being very clear in your communication about what your scheduling is like. If somebody asks me for a meeting today, I'm currently scheduling in mid to late December. So just being very honest that with what I'm able to give to make sure that I can meet their needs. I think it really comes down to communication and expectations.
Very, very true. All right, back to Dr. Sandhu. So have you ever had a mentor who was less responsive or too busy? And what should mentees do in these situations?
I think we all run into that problem where you send a text or a message and you don't get a response. I think the best thing you can do is set up a formal meeting. So get to their assistant instead of like a random text or an email, to get a formal time where you know they're going to be focused on you. I think that another thing is, as we've all been saying, it's good to have a specific ask or what is it that you want. So maybe sending your questions or your goals in the form of an email in advance. So it's easier for them to respond, to then know what you're going to, it's not like a blind side of what you're talking about. So setting up a formal meeting, maybe sending an email in advance with topics you'd like to discuss. And then if they consistently fail to respond, I think then we talk about, do you need another mentor? And this is not working.
Dr. Roque, any different thoughts? Anything to add to that?
No, I completely agree. You can try so many times before feeling that if they're not invested in that relationship, it's not gonna actually be successful in the end. So I completely agree with that.
Right, back to Dr. Sandy. We kind of touched on this before, but what are the best ways to set the goals in the mentor-mentee relationship?
I think figuring out what your mentor is for, what that specific skill set is that you're working for there. Is it for research? Is it for clinical skills? What is it you're doing? And then, like having both short-term goals and the long-term goals. Because if you just have 3-year, 5-year goals, nothing's going to happen. But if you're like, to get to my 3-year goal, my goal is to become an educator, then maybe I start working on doing some research. I'm going to just use my own life, like using simulation. So doing research in something that I'm interested in. So I think you have to have the 3 and 5-year goals, but what am I going to do in this next 6 to 1 year that I can help be held accountable for? So I think that's really important.
Very true. Dr. Ferguson, any thoughts on that?
No, I like that. I think the a really honest conversation with yourself, both as the mentor and the mentee, what do I need and what can I offer? Um, we all want to be everything to everyone, right? Like we want to be kind of one side, I can help anyone with everything. But the fact of the matter is there are things that I can't, and things that I am not well versed to help somebody navigate whatever. I'm not a researcher. I have no knowledge of grants, right? And so if we're going to sit down and come up with, maybe your first session is a goal setting session and setting expectations for timing, frequency, communication. I know that sounds very formal and kind of a rigid structure for things, but I think starting with that framework is really important, and then letting everything that happens from there be more authentic. Maybe it's just a check-in, kudos, I saw blah, 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 whatever. Like those are also invaluable interactions, but I think really setting the tone and what are we here for and what are we trying to accomplish from the very beginning is the secret to make sure everybody's needs are getting met. Mentor what their needs are, mentee what they're capable of providing.
Very well. So back to Dr. Roque. Do you have any advice of how a mentor should give feedback, either positive or constructive?
So I may not be the best one because I'm very blunt. I'm from France and people always say I'm very blunt. So I may not be the best one, but I think being honest, in my opinion, being honest about the relationship is always the way to go. Not necessarily blunt, but honest. Honest on when things are going well, but also honest when things are not going well, or when people are not meeting their end of the bargain, because in the end there's going to be steps along the way, and if you don't reach those steps, and if you always say yes, that's good, that's great, without actually making them accountable for what they're doing, I think there's going to be no progress in the relationship.
Dr. Sandy and Dr. Ferguson, a more like American slash politically correct way of providing constructive feedback that's less blunt.
You make a sandwich, positive, negative, positive.
Yeah.
So more positives than negatives. But I think using objective data, like you have to say these were the goals we set for ourselves, and you did not meet 3 of the 4 goals. What can we do to like make actionable items to work on? Like what can we do to improve this? Because as we said, sometimes the mentor-mentee relationship doesn't work. It works both ways. If the mentee is like always not getting things done, is not using you to be effective, I feel like sometimes it's the mentor to say to the mentee, why are we here? Are we doing something that's going to be beneficial for you? Like, am I being effective for you? And maybe this relationship is not working. I think it goes both ways.
Dr. Ferguson, on the other end of this, how can a mentee handle unexpected or critical feedback?
Let's be honest, nobody likes being told that they aren't meeting expectations or measuring up, or that something about our performance isn't where it should be. And I don't like hearing that either, right? But the fact of the matter is none of us are perfect. None of us are fully formed. Whatever it is that we're meant to be, I am very much a work in progress. So I think the easiest approach to that feedback is to start from and this is in all arenas of life, right? Start from a place of curiosity. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about how I can be X, Y, or Z, or where I could potentially change my performance, right? Like this is an information gathering mission for me to get as much information as possible in terms of how I'm going to be better and where I'm going to go. I say this as a mentee and a mentor. And while our first instinct may be to tell someone that they're wrong or to argue, really we should say thank you for the feedback, and I'm going to need a little bit of time to process this and think about it. Is it possible for us to follow up once I've had a little bit of time to digest this information, right? And that gives you some time to get out of the emotional response and receipt of that information. Get past that, oh my gosh, I'm not perfect, to be able to get to a place where you can really be constructive about it in terms of, okay, well, what can I do and where can I go from here?
Yes, very true. And we may return to that in a little bit, but for now, the last question of the script before we get into the Q&A, we're going back to Dr. Roque. How does being vulnerable play into a successful mentor-mentee relationship?
Oh, I think it's the key. It's like if you show your mistakes and you show you're not perfect, then you're gonna have a good relationship. But if you show that you're way superior than your mentee and that you're on top and they're like below you, then there's never gonna be a good relationship. But showing that you made the same mistakes before, that you made it through, that you progressed, I think is the key to success.
And Dr. Sandy, as a mentee, perhaps?
I think the same thing. It makes your mentor more approachable because the whole goal of this is to get the mentee to get their needs addressed. But if they don't feel comfortable with telling you what their needs are, like if you say this person has never had any problems, how can I share that I feel less than, or I don't feel as comfortable in my own skin about these things? I think that it's really it's builds trust, and like Dr. Roque said, it's like the key to everything. Getting to the core of what you're doing there. People learn more from mistakes than from successes.
I will add that as a mentee, like many times we identify mentors that we look up to and we feel we want to impress them. But I think it's very important to go to them with a very open mind and accept, like tell them, these are my problems, help me with my problems. It doesn't make a lot of sense to go there if we're not open to feedback or criticism. They will not be impressed. There are a lot of impressive people, so we can impress our mentors just by going to them and not disclosing the things that we're working on and how we need help. All right, time to get into the Q&A. Let's see. So first question is, does one have to be mentored before they can mentor? Dr. Ferguson?
Nope. And actually, I would tell you that you are all already mentors in arenas that you probably don't consider yourself a mentor in, but I think there are lots of situations where any support and guidance and suggestions you can offer someone is essentially mentorship, just maybe not in the framework that you think it should be. So you're already there. I promise.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's mentorship it's now structured in many settings, but it's also very unstructured. Teaching is mentorship. Yeah, it's in many aspects of life. All right, next question. How can mentors support mentees who face institutional barriers or biased gatekeeping? A reality many international surgeons still experience. Dr. Sandhya?
I think this is where the sponsorship part of it comes in. I think as part of being a mentor, especially like mid-level or senior level people in the hospital or in your career can do for you is give you opportunities that you may not have had otherwise, whether it be in, oh, do you want to work on this research project with me? Or I'm setting up a panel. Would you like to sit on this panel? I think just giving opportunities and being a sponsor is part of that mentorship strategy to be effective.
Dr. Rowe, any other thoughts on this?
No, I completely agree with the opportunity. It's very important to like have mentors or coaches or supporters that actually help you like navigate and find opportunities for you.
Can I also add, I think sometimes the institutional barriers or bias or things that we experience, women, minorities, foreign graduates, whatever thing it is that makes somebody other. On one hand, we kind of look at it, we're like, oh, we just have to figure out how to handle it. But sometimes it's also takes the encouragement for someone to say, maybe this isn't the right place for you, right? Like maybe if you're experiencing all of these barriers in your institution, maybe this isn't the right arena for you to be in to blossom and to grow. And I think sometimes having that voice outside of your head, questioning things or helping you to identify resources or places for information or support can be really helpful, because we get really stuck in whatever it is that we're experiencing. And sometimes, especially if there's a lot of bias or outright discrimination or something, you can feel like you're the only one and you're completely alone and that you don't have any options. And at the end of the day, there's always an option. And so I think asking questions and reiterating those goals to figure out, is this the right place for you to try and navigate those barriers, or is it time to look for another opportunity?
Yeah, I agree with that very much. I think flexibility, especially in people who have to overcome center obstacles, we many times set our goals and it becomes a matter of ego, and we, become fixated on a few goals. But flexibility, it will pay off dividends down the line. We don't always need to do the hardest thing or take the hardest path. Next question. What strategies do you recommend for mentors when a mentee's performance is declining, but they become defensive or unaware of this? We'll stay with Dr. Ferguson.
I would say always lead with curiosity first, right? Sometimes the little things about performance can be the first sign that there are other things that aren't in harmony in someone's life. And so I usually start with how are things? How are things going, right? I think a lot happens in people's lives outside of the little snippets that we see that gets carried over, and sometimes people need to talk about that. We might be here to talk about your residency application, but if you've just had a miscarriage or had a death in your family or a long relationship that's ended, that might be the reason for it. So I always start with curiosity. I think this in all things. People deserve the benefit of the doubt that they're doing the best they can with where they're at. And so seeing if there are other things that are impacting their performance or ways you can support them. And if it really does come down to just a performance, then trying to explore where the barrier to incorporating that feedback or recognizing that it's coming from a valid source is coming from.
Dr. Sandia?
I agree with that completely. I tend to, when people are not doing or as well as we expect, I'll just take residents for example, like with my resident mentee, if they're not hitting benchmarks or goals on ABSITE or things like that, I usually try to take them out of the hospital situation. I try to like go have a coffee somewhere or something that's less in the same situation, and do the same thing that Dr. Ferguson said. Try to figure out what's going on in their lives. How are you just doing? Like, how are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough rest? Like, what is happening in your life? To try to figure out what the issue is, because most people who are in our system are trying to do their best, want to like help people, want to do a good job, and so trying to figure out what's happening there. But then if it's it's just like, oh, I'm not studying enough, I'm not getting, like, how can I help you with these barriers? Do we need to set up some sort of action plan where you do 5 questions a day, like kind of small things that you can do, small actionable items?
These are great points, and I guess I'll be the devil's advocate. Let's say everything is going well in their life, and you try to give them some feedback, and they become defensive. Dr. Sandy, after you took them out for coffee.
I think it's just inherent that everybody becomes defensive. The people you're giving feedback that's not great, and people start to get defensive. First thing is they want to interrupt you. Oh, it's because I'm this, because I'm this. And I just have to say, like, I just need you to listen to me for 5 minutes, and then we'll have a conversation. Just take it in first. Just take it in, and let's have a conversation after you hear everything I've said. Because as Dr. Ferguson was saying earlier, sometimes you just need to digest that data as the mentee. And so I just ask for time so that I can go through all my points of what I'm seeing before they like come back at me, before that defensive mechanism to stop the talking happens. So I think that is helpful. And if you have examples of things, I think it's good to go prepared into that conversation. You can't just say, oh, you're not doing a great job. You have to have like examples of why that's happening, and then just ask them to let you finish before you, in a non-confrontational manner. It has to be very coming from a place of, obviously, I'm trying to help you here, but I just want to go through these things and just give me 5 minutes to explain, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah. Dr. Roque, do you have anything else to add? I think we covered this question pretty well.
I usually schedule a follow-up meeting like a week later or so we can actually both think about what happened or right the wrongs that we had and then talk about it in a more like calm and positive way.
That's a good point here. All right, next question in the Q&A. Does the role of mentor go beyond the institution when you're trying to help a mentee? That's an easy one. Dr. Roque, do you want to take it?
Oh, I think it goes way beyond. It's like a life. It's a life a relationship. So I've had mentors for over 10 years. I've had people in my life that I will keep for the rest of my life that I call when I have a question. And sometimes we don't talk for months. And then suddenly I have a question and I will reach out to them and they're always there. So it goes way beyond the institution. They can move wherever, and some have moved from Indiana University and they're still in my life. So this is a long-term relationship.
Yeah, definitely. For training, I've been to many different places. So all of these places, people stay invested for life, and you end up seeing them 10 years later, 20 years later in a conference or this and that. These are relationships for life, like you mentioned.
Can I just add, I think though you have to be careful, right, and have some boundaries, both from the mentor and the mentee standpoint. If it's something in your personal life or some issues well outside of work and training and surgery, right, you're going to have mentors who will still be the right person for you to go to with that. But mentors still have to have some boundaries to protect themselves to a certain extent. And mentees as well, of who are you inviting into all of the different aspects of your life. I think just being a little bit cautious about how much is embroiled in that relationship from both standpoints can be a good idea.
That's a great point as well. All right, next question. Outside of an institution, particularly during connections made from different geographic locations, how does one decide the interaction is a mentee-mentor relationship? Oh, okay. So I think I know what I mean. So basically, you identify someone internationally that you feel like could be a good mentor. How do you set up this mentor-mentee relationship? How do you define it? Dr. Sandia?
I think this is just setting up a meeting and, saying, I'd like to meet to discuss the thing that you're interested in talking to them about, right? And then I think including your CV and just a list of topics you want to discuss with them, because I think it's not like, hey, I want you to be my mentor, but maybe sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, I really appreciate what you've done in this part of your career, and I'd like to discuss what I'm interested in here to get to that. I've done that in my own life. I've like scheduled a cold meeting with somebody and like one of the vice chairs and said, I really am interested in how you got to this position. Like, what did you do to get here, and what can I do to make myself a better candidate for that?
And I suppose this answers the question, how does one approach a mentor online? This has been partially covered, but Dr. Roque, any additional thoughts?
No, I completely agree. Being direct in what you want out of a potential relationship, and setting up a formal meeting is usually the way to go.
And I will add to that, I have found, especially for people who for whom English is not the first language, we now have a super powerful tool. It's called ChatGPT. You can put your email over there and ask ChatGPT to fix it for you, and it's going to make it very, very nice and respectful, and it's very helpful. Dr. Ferguson, any thoughts on that? All of that?
No, I think Dr. Sandhu gave us an excellent approach to it. I literally did that last week. Reached out to somebody and asked if I could buy them a cup of coffee and schedule some time to chat with them. By the way, here's my CV and here's what I wanted to chat with you about. Almost verbatim. So I don't think I can make that answer any better.
Excellent. Next two questions are kind of on the same lines. Are all mentors target specific, and is it necessary to have a mentor from the same specialty as the mentee? Kind of touched on this before, but Dr. Roque?
Oh, absolutely not. I would recommend not having someone from your specialty, actually. So they are not biased if they work with you clinically and you're trying to do research with them, or if they don't have another agenda or something. So having people from various areas. One of my mentors in pediatrics. I'm an HPV surgeon, so that has absolutely nothing to do. And we get along extremely well. I know that she only wants the best for me. I am not in her specialty. We don't interact clinically at all, and that's perfect. So we stay on a research standpoint, and that's a very closed environment, and that's why we get along. So I would recommend different areas, not necessarily a specialty at all.
Yeah, it's a good point. Dr. Sandhu, anything to add?
I agree. Sometimes it's good to have somebody maybe in the same specialty at a different institution for the same kind of reason, because you can talk about things that you're worried about or concerned about, but it's not at your home institution. So it's like a little separate from there. So sometimes that's helpful, but I agree with outside your specialty for sure.
Yeah. And to specifically address the question, like, are the mentors target specific? I think yes and no. If you're an IMG and you're applying for a residency position, definitely you need to have people who can help you specifically with that. But it's also okay to have, to identify people that you look upon and you or look up to, and you want to see how they're thinking and how they got to where they are. So that's a little bit less specific, but still, it can also be very helpful. All right, last question. I believe mentorship in surgery is peculiar in the sense that surgeons are busy and sometimes stressed out. How can a mentee navigate this with his or her mentor? Dr. Ferguson.
I mean, I think don't take it personally, right? If they don't respond or get back to your email. Sometimes my email is overwhelming and it takes me a month to respond, and it's not you, it's me. So I think just being realistic in terms of timelines. If you send me an email today and say, hey, can we meet tomorrow? I'm probably not going to make that happen. But also, if you haven't heard from me in a couple of weeks, just follow back, circle back. Dr. Sandhu actually made a great suggestion earlier of maybe you contact their admin and see if there's a way to schedule a meeting. But don't take it personally, and continue to pursue. If it's a time urgent matter, tell them this is a time-sensitive matter. But I think being just very clear on what your needs and expectations are, and also being honest with yourself about what their capacity is right now, and that they don't get back to you, it's not personal. It's not personal.
Yeah, yeah, very true. Dr. Sandy or Dr. Roque, any thoughts on that?
I agree. I think we all have a lot going on at the same time, and we all wear a lot of hats. So it's very difficult sometimes to keep up with the emails, the number of emails we get. So making it like this is very time sensitive. I'll just give an example. If a fellow's applying for a job or something, they have a job interview coming up and they're like, can you just review my CV? Can you look at my, can we just do a practice run? I think those kinds of things where like it has to happen soon just to make them aware. Otherwise, if it's something that can sit a little bit longer, then making an appointment with their admin is a good idea.
I agree with all that. I feel that if this is really emergent and somebody needs to talk to another person, I usually try to like see them at the hospital and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to send you a message because I need to do so and so. I need your help with my CV or my application or something. So they know that they can expect something from you. So.
Yes. So this is a question I have personally for the panelists. Do you share personal contact info with your mentees, or like with many of your mentees, let's say, like cell phone? Like, do they have cell phone access to you, or do they usually work within the professional boundaries?
I think it depends on the context of the relationship, right? So if I'm mentoring a medical student within the context of my role within an institution, I usually don't lead with my cell phone number. Most of our communication happens by email. I would say my relationships with residents are a little bit more. They're a little bit more intimate, right? We have a little bit more contact. It happens at slightly different hours. And so those trainees oftentimes do reach out and text me. I am very clear on my personal boundaries. I say things in jest, but I mean it. Like, I don't like talking on the phone, so don't cold call me. Send me a text first so I can mentally prepare myself for a phone conversation. And I warn people about that ahead of time. And so honestly, very few people just cold call me. And I'm not gonna lie, if you cold call me, I'm probably not gonna answer. But I also work really hard to protect certain periods of my day, like the evening hours are for my family. And so I don't schedule any meetings. And if someone reaches out to me during that time, I say, with all due respect, this is not a good time for me. Can we schedule some time to meet? So I probably am more liberal with sharing my contact information, but I also offer it with boundaries about what I'm okay with and what I'm not.
Yeah, great. Dr. Sandy?
I'm very similar. Like the residents, fellows, faculty all have my cell phone number. If it's more of like a medical student or an outside institution resident, it may be more email based, just to be more professional. I do very similar things.
All right, so that leads to our last question. Sai from Boston University. If the panel is open to sharing, she would like a personal example. What's a valuable lesson the mentor gave you that influenced how you approach surgery, research, and/or leadership? Dr. Roque first.
I think I learned from the bad experiences. I had a mentorship panel that was definitely not for me. And I could not see myself in any of them. They were all very, very successful, but I could not see myself in any of them. My struggles were not the struggles they had. We didn't see eye to eye in like the meetings and so I had to do what Dr. Ferguson said and just move on and explain to them that, that was not really working for me and I needed to find somebody different. So I actually like changed and I found a woman which I felt more closer to because I felt we had the same like struggle throughout our career, and that worked out much better. So I learned a lot from the mistakes I made. I learned a lot from the bad experiences, and I think that helped.
Dr. Sandy?
First of all, I want to say I went to BU for medical school, so hi, Sai. I think that one of the best things I learned was, as I said, making my long-term goals from one of my mentors, who's now my boss, actually, just to hone down what I wanted to focus on, you know, because we talk about all these different things that you can do and what you're looking for, these different mentors, but it was like helping me find my niche, actually, like focusing on like, education is really what I want to do. I'm not as interested in certain other things because I was trying to focus my life and decided what I wanted to do with my life. And I was always interested in education, but like just like how can I now make that my goal? What can I do to make myself more involved in that role and giving me like direction in that? So I think it helped me hone in on what I wanted to do with my life.
And Dr. Ferguson?
I have two that I think are worthwhile. I'll make them fast. I had a mentor who it devolved into a very pathologic relationship. And from that relationship, both with myself and watching interactions with others, I became very clear on who I never want to be in a room. And how I don't ever want to leave a room or other people feeling, right? So if we are all just a beautiful mural of all of the parts of others that we have taken with us, I think some of that is who you want to be, but also who you don't want to be. And so I became very clear on who I don't want to be. And on that note, I had a chair, the man who hired me, who actually died a number of years ago, who talked a lot about what he is leaving behind. And this was before a terminal cancer diagnosis. And so I think about that all the time, right? I can't just fix someone's problems or tell them exactly what to do and expect that they're going to have this long, successful career and attribute it to me, right? Here's the whole like, are you giving them fish or are you giving them a fishing rod? If you can help people figure out how to navigate and how to fix whatever is happening, right? That's a different type of legacy to leave. So I think a lot about legacy and the impact that I can have. And maybe it's just as a positive cheerleader in someone's back pocket that they can call when things seem a little bit grim, like what an amazing impact to have on others.
Yeah, these are great examples. All right, I think we wrapped up. Jesse?
Yes. Thank you all again so much for being on today's panel and sharing your knowledge. We just have a few concluding announcements before we end the webinar. So first, as mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, today's webinar has been recorded and will be posted onto the ACS YouTube page. You can also view past webinars, including our part 1 on mentorship, on the ACS YouTube page under the Global Surgery playlist. Additionally, we did talk about other mentorship programs throughout this webinar, and I wanted to highlight that the Women in Surgery Committee does have a mentorship program for women surgeons here at the college. Applications do open in January. You can scan the QR code on the screen for more information. And lastly, if you have questions, feedback, or any ideas, you can submit them either by emailing me or any of the other IRC staff. Thank you so much, and we hope that you guys have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Jesse.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank
It was a
you,
pleasure to
everybody.
have you.
Thank you.
Right.
Have a good day, friends.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.